In the remote village of Liskov, nestled deep within the ancient Białowieża Forest of Poland, the legend of the Latawiec has been whispered among the villagers for generations. The dense woods, with their towering trees and shadowy paths, have long been believed to be the home of spirits, but none are as feared as the Latawiec. The Latawiec, also known as the kite devil, is said to be a wicked spirit that takes the form of a monstrous bird. According to legend, it is the restless soul of a man who, in life, committed heinous acts of violence and witchcraft. Banished by his village and left to die alone in the forest, his spirit transformed into the Latawiec, cursed to roam the skies and prey on the living. One autumn evening, a young woman named Zofia returned to her family home in Lisko after years of living in the city. Seeking solace and escape from her troubled life, she found comfort in the familiar sights and sounds of her childhood village. The crisp air and vibrant colors of the forest were a welcome change, and she spent her days wandering the woodland paths and reminiscing about simpler times. One night, Zofia's peace was shattered by a chilling cry that echoed through the village. The villagers huddled in their homes, knowing all too well what the sound meant. It was the call of the Latawiec, a harbinger of death and despair. Despite the warnings from her family and neighbors, Zofia's curiosity got the better of her. Armed with a lantern and a cloak, she ventured into the forest, determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. As she wandered deeper into the woods, the trees seemed to close in around her, their branches forming twisted skeletal fingers that reached for the sky. The air grew colder, and an unnatural silence settled over the forest. Zofia's lantern cast long, flickering shadows on the path ahead, and she could feel an eerie presence watching her. Suddenly, a gust of wind extinguished her lantern, plunging her into darkness. Panic set in as she fumbled to relight it, but before she could, she heard the beating of enormous wings above her. She looked up to see the Latawiec descending from the treetops, its eyes glowing with a malevolent fire. The creature's body was a grotesque mix of bird and human, with razor-sharp talons and a face twisted in eternal rage. Zofia turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. The Latawiec's screeches filled the night, and she could hear the rustling of leaves and snapping of branches as it pursued her. She stumbled over roots and fallen branches, her fear driving her forward. In her desperation, she remembered the old tales her grandmother used to tell, stories of how the Latawiec could be repelled by iron and fire. Clutching the small iron pendant around her neck, Zofia made a dash for a nearby clearing where the moonlight bathed the forest floor in a ghostly glow. She quickly gathered sticks and leaves, using her trembling hands to create a makeshift torch. With a spark from her flint, she managed to ignite it just as the Latawiec swooped down. The creature shrieked in fury and recoiled from the flames. Zofia brandished the torch, keeping the Latawiec at bay as she slowly backed away. The spirit's eyes blazed with hatred, but it dared not come closer. With each step, Zofia felt a glimmer of hope, the light from the torch pushing back the darkness. Eventually, she reached the edge of the forest, where the village's lights beckoned her home. The Latawiec let out one final blood-curdling scream before retreating into the shadows, its monstrous form melting into the night. Exhausted and terrified, Zofia stumbled back to her house, where her family awaited her return. The villagers were astonished by her tale, and Zofia became something of a local hero. However, she knew that the Latawiec was not truly gone, merely driven back into the depths of the forest. She spent the following days learning more about the spirit, speaking with the village elders, and researching ancient texts. She discovered that the Latawiec could only be truly vanquished by locating its hidden lair and destroying the cursed relic that bound its spirit to the mortal realm. Determined to end the Latawiec's reign of terror, Zofia prepared for one final journey into the forest. Armed with a stronger torch, a knife, and her iron pendant, she ventured back into the woods, following the faint traces of dark magic that led her deeper into the heart of the forest. Days passed as she navigated the labyrinthine paths, facing numerous trials and evading the Latawiec's relentless attacks. Her resolve never wavered, even as exhaustion and fear threatened to overwhelm her. Finally, she stumbled upon a hidden cave, its entrance marked with ancient runes and bones. Inside the cave, she found the Latawiec's nest, a grotesque altar adorned with the remnants of its victims. At the center lay a tattered blood-stained book bound in human skin, the source of the Latawiec's power. With a deep breath, Zofia plunged her knife into the book, tearing it apart and setting it ablaze with her torch. The cave trembled, and a deafening roar echoed through the forest as the Latawiec appeared, its form writhing in agony. The flames consumed the cursed relic, and the spirit's monstrous body dissolved into ashes. The air grew still, and an eerie silence settled over the forest. Zofia emerged from the cave, victorious but forever changed. She returned to the village, where the news of the Latawiec's defeat brought relief and celebration. However, Zofia knew that the darkness she had faced would remain with her always, a reminder of the ancient evil that lurked within the forest. And so, the legend of the Latawiec became a tale of caution and bravery, a story told to warn future generations of the malevolent spirit that once haunted the skies of Poland. While the Latawiec's reign of terror had ended, the memory of its dark presence would forever linger in the shadows of the ancient Białowieża Forest.